Welcome to my views on news. Some news stories for you. First one is from Eritrea. US analysts, US policy makers, US government officials are sharing an analysis about Eritrean president, Eritrean government. They believe that Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, is in search of a new enemy, not a new ally, a new enemy. How convincing is this analysis? We'll have a detailed look at this analysis. Secondly, Antony Blinken, US Secretary of State, is due to visit Ethiopia. The visit has been confirmed by Ethiopian Foreign Ministry. Last year, Antony Blinken visited East Africa. He visited Ethiopian neighbor Kenya. He did not visit Ethiopia. What does this visit mean for Ethiopia, which is facing an economic crisis? On the one hand, Ethiopian government is not showing any flexibility regarding its resistance to independent investigation into human rights abuses committed in Tigray conflict. On the other hand, US Secretary of State is ready to visit Ethiopia. What does it mean? Does it mean that US call for investigation into human rights abuses in Ethiopia is just a way of putting pressure upon Ethiopian government? Firstly, viewers, US and Western policy makers, government officials, and their analysts, they have come up with a new analysis about Eritrea, an Eritrean president. Though I have been saying that Western media's coverage of Eritrea, Eritrean government has not been unbiased. And that is why we saw that whenever international media broadcast, posted something about Eritrea, Eritrean Information Ministry quickly rejected it because both sides accuse each other of working against each other. Now, a new analysis is being shared about Eritrea. It is being claimed that Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, is in search of a new enemy. Perhaps not an enemy which is an imminent threat to Eritrea, but a concocted enemy to unite Eritreans. It is being said that Isaias Afwerki, Eritrean president, scared Eritreans using TPLF's name for decades. It was said that TPLF was against Eritrea, that Ethiopian government led by TPLF was working against Eritrea. It was backed by the West and US, and it was working to destabilize Eritrea. It tried to stifle Eritrean economy, etc., etc. But now, Eritrean government's official position is that game over. We saw banners displayed by Eritrean military when it withdrew from Tigray main towns and cities a few weeks ago. The banners displayed had this writing, game over. And Isaias Afwerki started his interview on regional affairs a few weeks ago with the phrase game over. So now when game is over, it means that TPLF cannot be used as a tool for scaring Eritreans, for creating unity in Eritrea, and for hiding government's poor performance when it comes to internal issues. So that is why some analysts believe that a new enemy is being created by Eritrean president. Who is this new enemy? The new enemy is not one from the region. West, US, EU US are, though it's not a new position taken by Eritrean government that West and US are working against Eritrean interests. But now this narrative will be reinforced by statements from Eritrean government that US and West are actively working to destabilize Eritrea. And the purpose of this narrative, not a new narrative, but you can say a narrative which is being relaunched. The purpose is to create unity among Eritrean diaspora, pro-government diaspora, and unity in Eritrea. I have been saying, if you remember, 2 days ago and yesterday I did some videos and I said that Eritrean diaspora is asking valid questions. What is Isaias Afwerki's plan now when TPLF is no more a threat to Eritrea? When game is over, does Isaias have anything in mind to take Eritrea to the position of a developed country or a developing country? Such valid questions are being asked. Of course, Isaias does not have any solid plan so far. We are waiting for his next part of interviews. Third part of his interview, which focused on domestic issues, did not share any particular plan for changing the lives of Eritreans. And most of diaspora community, pro-government, pro-Eritrean government members, they were disappointed. So this new narrative is being relaunched to keep Eritrean pro-government diaspora united and to hide internal failures. But I personally think that it's not a new narrative. It will be difficult for the Eritrean government to make this narrative acceptable to the diaspora, to the people in Eritrea. Isaias Afwerki will have to come up with something which brings a ray of hope for Eritreans inside Eritrea and outside Eritrea. Let's see what happens when he speaks in the next part of his interview. Lastly, viewers, Ethiopian Foreign Ministry announced today that US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is due to visit Ethiopia. Antony Blinken visited Kenya last year, Ethiopian neighbor. He did not visit Ethiopia back then. And if you remember, Ethiopian diaspora launched a very strong No More campaign in the US, in the West, in EU countries. Ethiopian government was backing that campaign. US was being accused of backing TPLF. Aid organizations were being accused of supporting TPLF. US stepped back. US-Ethiopia relations were strained back then, but the two countries have come a long way now. US is backing. It is one of the main facilitators, which led to the signing of Pretoria deal. US is backing implementation of the peace deal. At the same time, US is calling for independent investigation into human rights abuses committed during the Tigray conflict. Though Ethiopian government is not listening, it wants an end to the mandate of UN Inquiry Commission. Antony Blinken is due to visit Ethiopia. Question is, what does this visit have for Ethiopia? Obviously, Ethiopia is hoping to receive financial aid from the US, direct financial aid, which could be in the form of loans as well, loans and grants through IMF and World Bank. And it could be in the form of loan payment rescheduling, which is still pending. No progress made so far. Let's see what this Antony Blinken's visit holds for Ethiopia. At the same time, I personally believe that US call for investigation, US call for Ethiopian government to allow access to UN investigators is just a way of putting pressure upon Ethiopian government. Had US been sincerely interested in investigations into human rights abuses in Ethiopia, I don't think Antony Blinken would have visited Ethiopia. So the calls for investigations are just a way of putting pressure upon Ethiopian government. Everyone knows that Ethiopia is not going to allow UN investigators to enter Tigray. Ethiopia will try its best to put an end to the mandate of UN Inquiry Commission. Of course, EU, US will oppose these Ethiopian efforts. Why? Because they want to keep this issue alive. It is a way of putting pressure upon Ethiopian government. It's not that EU and US are sincerely pursuing a policy for respect of human rights in Ethiopia. Let's see what happens when Blinken comes to Ethiopia. We can sum up that US has not decided to improve ties with Ethiopia. No matter what happens in terms of the fate of UN Inquiry Commission. There could be several reasons. There could be reasons like Russian presence in Eritrea. Russia is planning to build a naval base there. Russian presence in Sudan. US does not, and Chinese presence as well in Ethiopia and in Eritrea. And growing Ethiopia-China, Ethiopia-Russia relations too. There could be several reasons behind this US decision to improve ties with Ethiopia. Let's see what Antony Blinken says during his visit to Ethiopia in coming days. Thanks for watching.